Rubin, a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for the Obama administration for legislative affairs. He's also running for Congress in the state of Maryland. Joel, thanks for joining us tonight.
It's great to be with you, Abby.
So tonight, we're also learning that Iran is saying that this October 7th attack was revenge for the assassination of the Iranian commander Soleimani, which happened during a U.S. airstrike back in 2020. Now, Hamas is actually refuting that claim. They're saying that this was not about that. It was about the Al-Aqsa Mosque. What do you think that this kind of dispute, even between these allied entities, what does it mean?
You know, Abby, the line, no honesty amongst thieves, comes to mind. Look, Hamas chose to conduct this attack on October 7th, this vile attack, and they did it on their own volition. Iran has been backing Hamas for years, for decades, without a doubt. But Iran did not pull the trigger and tell Hamas to do this. And in fact, there's a lot of frustration and anger inside Hamas at Iran because Hamas was hoping that Hezbollah would be activated, that there would be more militias, as the colonel was describing, activated in striking Israel. And they were not. And Iran has not either struck Israel. So there's some tensions there without a doubt. And I think that Hamas, they want to take full credit for this vile attack and let them have full credit. They're the ones that did it, and they're the ones that should be on the receiving end of punishment for it.
So also happening right now, you know, one of Netanyahu's top advisors, Ron Dermer, he met with the Biden administration officials over at the White House for hours in Washington about Israel's plans for what's next in this war, scaling down the war. The U.S. is trying to pressure Israel to bring an end to it under enormous domestic pressure, but also global pressure as well. Do you get the sense that the Biden administration has that kind of influence over the Israeli government at this point?
You know, they certainly do have the inroads in the Israeli government that give them credibility, not just with the government, but with the Israeli people. President Biden's popularity is through the roof. He would win an election in Israel if he were to run for prime minister there. So he has that influence. And what the Biden team is trying to do is to make sure that the Israelis don't just fight this war as if there's no peace, but also fight for peace as if there's no war, to look for some type of political horizon, provide that for the Palestinians, because ultimately, as the colonel was saying a moment ago, Hamas cannot be fully defeated through military means alone. There needs to be an opportunity for the Palestinian people to see a better day in the future. And that's where the Biden team is engaging. But they are very close. And there should be no doubt that the Biden team is looking at Israel as an ally in this fight and is trying to coax and coach it along as it is engaged in these operations.
So at what point do you think that this goes beyond just carrots here? Because, I mean, the Netanyahu government has articulated a goal, which is to eliminate Hamas. It's actually seems pretty easy, but it's kind of a vague objective. So at what point does the Biden administration have to change tactics in order to get the result it's looking for?
Well, you know, the Arab world has a vote in this, and the Arab world has not yet fully coalesced around a plan for how it wants to engage the United States and engage Israel on this. There are peace treaties between Israel and many Arab countries. I think that's the X factor in this, that the pressure on the White House in particular from our Arab allies who are also in good relations with Israel, that could be very significant. And also the question of the hostages. Look, let's not forget, there are more than 100 hostages still being held captive in Gaza, many of whom are Americans. And that combined with the continuing humanitarian crisis, all of that can come together at a certain point. I think that the Biden administration, what they're trying to do is to tell Israel, don't forget about these issues. Don't get so caught up in the direct, immediate fight with Hamas that you forget about the broader regional dynamics, the hostages, and of course, overall relations with the Palestinians. And I don't think that's a forever proposition, but certainly they're going to give Israel the time it needs to conduct operations that it feels it needs to conduct. But this isn't going to be a forever amount of bandwidth for Israel. And I think that's why you see so much close consultation.
Yeah. It's also a really politically tense time for President Biden. And you know well what's happening on the left here of his party. There's so much anger about the death and the destruction in Gaza. As we head into this election year, what is the political risk right now for President Biden?
Well, there are real political risks, without a doubt, Abby, as you're describing. Look, there is a lot of legitimate sympathy for the Palestinians and the plight of the Palestinians in Gaza and the humanitarian conditions there. There's also a significant amount of sympathy for Israel. And I think what we're seeing is a spike in hate speech right now and anti-Semitism that is causing deep concern as well in the party. And it is ripping the party's soul in two in many ways and causing fractures amongst different coalitions that have worked together closely for a number of years. So this is very much at the grassroots. What will it look like electorally months from now? It's very early to tell. It really is. And these can be repaired relationships. But right now, there's a lot of concern. There's a lot of skepticism about the policy on one side, and then there's a lot of deep support on the other side. I think that the president, though, he's unique in this space. Just one add. He is a unique voice. He has the ability to reach to people with whom he has difference and to engage. He has a lot of deep equity across the Democratic Party, and that kind of support, that's going to carry him. But without a doubt, it's a very difficult time right now in the Democratic Party because this is a very human crisis, and this is something that people care passionately about.
Yeah, they certainly do. Joel Rubin, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Abby.